Hello, everybody. Hope you're doing fantastically well. It's Connor here, and we are back with your Aston Villa vs Leeds United preview. A game that has tickled the pickle of many Leeds fans for years and years. Really, Leeds have had this sort of rivalry, really, with Aston Villa in the Championship. Obviously, the debacle at Ellen Road, which peaked all of that. The 1-1 where Marcelo Bielsa sort of let Villa score. And it's been increasing since then, really. But I've always taken an interest in Leeds versus Villa. A lot of my family are Birmingham based and are Villa fans as well. So I've always taken a keen eye on this one, and I think it's always a good game. Two big clubs going at it. It's always a feisty affair. I think it's always very, very competitive. And there's been a lot of changes since we last played Aston Villa at Ellen Road with Amar El Ghazi winner for the away side. Obviously, Leeds picked up the win at Villa Park last season, a quite impressive show from the Whites, one of the best I've seen, to be quite honest with you. A 3-0 demolition, and it should have been more. At that moment in time, Aston Villa were on the pomp. They were going through a real run of games with Dean Smith, where they looked very impressive. Leeds turned up and showed that sort of weird performance that Leeds United always have in the locker, a la West Ham United, where we just completely turn it on and look like prime Bielsa side, which hasn't happened at all enough this season. And yeah, that Villa performance was one that always stood out for me. The anomaly in that game, which seems to be a big anomaly and a huge caveat to this Leeds United side this season, was Pat Bamford, who on the day was man of the match, got 3 goals, and Villa just could not deal with him whatsoever. And I think that's what took his stock a lot higher, finishing the season, obviously, on 17 goals. We saw the emergence of Rafinha in that 3-0 win at Villa Park as well towards the end of the game with a crossfield ball that was absolutely superb. It was unbelievable. And we didn't know what we had in our hands at that point, but boy, did we did we find out in the later months. Obviously, Rafinha's about to get his 50th Premier League appearance for Leeds United tomorrow night at Villa Park. 25 goal contributions in 49 games. Utterly staggering numbers from the Brazilian. So we're looking to him, really. He's the star boy. He's the man who can win us the game. He's the game changer. But I do look at this game and I worry, Leeds fans. I do. I look at this game and I think there's just too much quality. And a lot of Leeds fans are referencing, the last time we went to Villa Park and the fact that, at that point, they had the likes of Jack Grealish on the pitch. They had still had John McGinn. They were a developing side. They'd been in the Premier League longer than we had at that stage. And Villa had a lot more money put behind them. But there was a sort of difference in that game, I thought. I thought Dean Smith hadn't really learned from the times that he played against Leeds before. They were quite passive. It all sort of went through Jack Grealish, which I know was a criticism from Villa fans all last season with regards to the now Man City man. And Leeds were able to quell it. Leeds were able to just completely sort of blow them away. We played extremely wide. Jack Harrison was extremely impressive in that game. It was one of his better games. I remember him just having Matty Cash on toast. Cash just couldn't deal with him. And obviously, we didn't even have Rafinha that game. But, the game at Ellen Road, which was more indicative of a different Villa, was they were a lot more staunch, they were a lot more rigid, and they'd learnt from the 3-0, you could tell. And Villa were probably the better team, I think we'd all admit, in that game. Leeds huffed and puffed, but couldn't really blow the back doors down, and Villa sort of ran out winners. Now, there's been a lot of change, especially with regards to Aston Villa in that time. Emi Buendia coming in, Philip Coutinho coming in, Danny Ings coming in, Luca Dean coming in, Callum Chambers coming in. There's been a lot of changes, in that Villa side. Ashley Young, another one coming in, and obviously Dean Smith leaving. Who I thought Smith was a decent manager. I thought he was decent. I think when you look at Steven Gerrard, I always thought Gerrard was going to be a very decent appointment. He was going to be able to attract the likes of Phil Coutinho, attract the likes of Luca Dean because of his pedigree, because of his manager, because of his ex-status as a football player as one of the best midfielders in the world. And what does that mean? Well, it means that players like John McGinn, players like Jacob Ramsey, a young 18-year-old, is able to thrive in this system because Gerrard gives the license to a lot of his midfielders because he was a midfielder and he understands the game in the middle of the park a lot more. But what I get the feel from Gerrard is simply he's a winner. He's aggressive. You saw that when he went to Everton with Aston Villa, when he's smiling and laughing at the Everton fans. He wants to win. He's a born winner, and you can tell he won't take any any rubbish, and he will bin players off when they need to be binned off, and he will bring players in when he feels that they need to come in, based on probably a meritocracy at Aston Villa. If you've played well, you stay in the side, and that's Gerrard's word or the highway. And I think, their ethos at the minute is they've plunged a lot of money into Aston Villa when they've been in the Premier League. I think it's upwards of 300 million. But, they've got a winner as a manager. And I think that's, in my personal opinion, what Villa always missed. That Dean Smith, I like him, but I don't think he matches that higher ambition for a club like Aston Villa. So, listen, I think they're a couple of years ahead of Leeds United in terms of development, but in terms of overhaul, in terms of players being brought into the club, that's exactly what I want with Leeds United. I want Leeds to be aggressive in the transfer market and bring in players in the summer that are able to give us that lift. This is an Aston Villa side who are hunting for the top six. The remit is the top six. And you look at the plethora of options they have in comparison to a Leeds United, who my chairman is telling me that next season we could potentially be competing for the top six. It's two different leagues. It really is, in terms of having two players for every single position. I was speaking to the Birmingham Mail writer, Ashley Priest, and he was saying that that's what Gerrard likes. He likes having two players in every position, not square peg round holes where you might have Stuart Dallas moving to left back and that being classified as a second player in a second position, but actually having two left backs. He was disappointed when Matt Targett went because he wanted two left backs fighting for that same role. So I think overall they're set up very, very well at the minute, and I think Gerrard is sort of the missing pawn. But with regards to Leeds United, what do I want us to see? Because as I've always said on this show, I think Leeds are a bit of a weirdo in terms of a team, and I don't think opposition fans like that. David Moyes certainly didn't like that a couple of weeks ago. I know Sean Dyche didn't like that a couple of weeks ago as well, 2 or 3 weeks ago. Leeds are that team who can give you that performance as an opposition side where you're thinking, for goodness sake, what's all this about? We also know that Gerrard hasn't come up against Marcelo Bielsa yet, which is a key thing going into these games, because Bielsa's got a very, very good record against managers who have, just faced him outright. When they sort of learn the system, a la Dean Smith, maybe Frank Lampard's chucked in there as well, they're able to adapt. But the first game against Leeds United is always going to be blood and thunder, and being able to manage that is extremely difficult. And how do clubs manage that? Well, if you are a first-time manager coming up against Marcelo Bielsa, I use Ole Gunnar Solskjaer as a classic example. If you have more quality, more man-for-man quality, then the likelihood is you're going to be able to get one over. And I do look at this Villa side tomorrow, and I think in a lot of positions, they have more quality than Leeds United. I think John McGinn's a brilliant player. Douglas Luiz in there, Phil Coutinho, Emi Buendia, who've had brilliant international spells, as has our boy, Rafinha. Rafinha's had a brilliant spell. But I think Leeds are that strange team who really can hurt a team like Aston Villa. And we've seen it before. The last 2 times we've been to Villa, we've scored 3, 3 consecutive times. 3 goals in one game, then 3 goals in the next game, 3-2 down there, where we just blew them away in the second half when they had more quality than us. And then in the second game, I argue they've got more quality than us as well. In that second game we played at Villa Park. And we obviously beat them 3-0 there. But I think it's going to be difficult in this game, because I think we all know how Marcelo's going to set up. We know it's going to be a Dan James up front. We know from the team structure there's not going to be a Junior Firpo there. There's not obviously going to be a Calvin Phillips or a Liam Cooper there. So the spine of the team is missing, really. And you're going up against a heavily, heavily improved Aston Villa side. So I think it's going to be really difficult for Leeds, if I'm honest with you. And I think, I try look at it objectively. I try be a very neutral fan, because I think if you're very, very biased, you can get drawn into not actually looking at other teams and observing other teams' strengths. And I try not to do that. I try to stick in the middle, look at our strengths, look at the opposition's strengths. And I think sometimes that gets mistaken for negativity. It's not negative at all. It's, for me, I see it as being completely realistic. That's my personal perspective on it. Because I'm happy when Leeds win. I'm over the moon. I think negative people, when their teams win, they always try to look for the negative. When Leeds win, I'm the happiest person on planet Earth. But when they lose, I will be critical and I will look at what needs to improve. I've played football myself at a decent level, and I think I've got a good understanding of the game. I've been part of the media sphere as well for a while, so I think I've got a good measure on it. But and that's why we've got the One Leeds Fan Channel that you guys all tune into, and I hope you enjoy this sort of stuff. But I think it's going to be a tough game, and I think the perspective on Aston Villa and the perspective on Everton, these next two games in the next sort of 5-6 days have dramatically changed with the transfer of Philip Coutinho and the transfer of Frank Lampard into Everton. I think that the sort of the look ahead of these two games is now completely different. So, but what do Leeds need to do? It's imperative that we get points from these two games, because then we've got a real tough run, haven't we? A real tough run. Obviously, Manchester United, Tottenham coming up, and Leicester, Liverpool, I believe, are in there as well. So Leeds are once again getting into those games where it's a tough run. That's why Newcastle was a real hammer blow. But we have to get points. If it's a draw and a win, I think we need to get a win in these games, because we've said this multiple times. It's everybody say it's pure realism. Pure realism. People don't like to hear it, but that 7-point gap, when you have got teams below us winning, that 7-point gap when you have 5 games and you potentially don't pick anything up, evaporates very, very quickly. So Leeds in these next two games where you're looking at and you're thinking, out of our next 5, these next 2 are probably the ones that we're going to be able to pick serious points up in. Hopefully, touch wood, there's no excuses. We have to pick points up. Rafinha obviously been our star boy. I look to him, but there needs to be more players standing up to it. We need Jack Harrison to have a Jack Harrison performance, not hot and cold. It signifies Jack Harrison. This is why I get so frustrated with the lad, because I know the potential he has. Those performance like he had against West Ham United, and then a performance like he had against Newcastle. It's too hot and cold, and that surmises the Leeds team at the minute. It's too hot and cold. We need more hot moments. We need a luxurious, lukewarm bath for the rest of the season. That's what we need. And there needs to be more hot performances in the next 2 games. And I really am looking at this Villa game as a staple, because we've been that weirdo for Villa before, that team that's ran them down. Look at Steven Gerrard's having a mini preseason with them. He knows what he's about to come up against with Leeds United. But we do have that ability to be able to get at teams. But we've got to be defensively strong. We've conceded 10 set-piece goals now, which I think gets past a lot of people. Villa are very strong on set pieces. And with Gerrard, you've seen with Gerrard's Rangers teams and obviously Rangers team, and the Villa team already, they're aggressive from moment 1. So we need to coming on to us and maybe fight fire with fire and go back onto them and be confident and play wide and really hurt them. But for me, Gerhardt's got to start. He won't, but he's got to start. The Dan James experiment, don't get me wrong, he can press Mings and Konsa and maybe put them off kilt. But, it's not enough. We need a finisher up there. There's no point in pressing. If you alleviate the press, you beat the press, then you can't do anything with it. What's the point? Completely pointless. There's too many people focused on running and not the end product in the Leeds United sphere, I think. So, there needs to be a real clinical nature with Leeds United in this one. It's going to be a really, really tough game. If you watch the debrief, you'll hear my prediction. But I think it's going to be a tough one, this one. But I think we simply need to pick points up, because, as I said, that 7-point gap can evaporate very, very quickly in 5 games. Let me know what you think in the comment section below, guys. Hope you've enjoyed this preview. Make sure you check out the debrief from last night as well. Have a great weekend, and come on, Leeds.